Hey guys, welcome, Jen from Scholarly here. But before you watch any further, please have a go at the questions, right? Make sure you have completed the test under timed conditions. So do it in 40 minutes for the 40 questions. And make sure that you've completed and marked the entire exam as well, so you know which questions you got wrong. I've also tried to include timestamps at different points, so feel free to skip through to the specific questions that you just need some further clarification on. So I hope that this video is helpful, and also once I've gone through the questions in the paper, we will also do a debrief of the most common question types and some general advice for preparation. Okay, so without further ado, let's just get started. So we have our first question, which is a spatial reasoning question. One piece of a puzzle is shown below. Which one of the following shows a view of the piece from above? There's several different techniques with this, but the one I'm going to use is I'm going to look from above, right? And I'm noticing specific 2D shapes that I might see from above. So first of all, I'll see an L shape, right? I'll see an L shape here. So that means A won't work because there's no L. B and C and D are okay because you can see that particular L shape, right? Another 2D shape I'll see from the above view is this L. So I'll have to have an L there. So that means immediately C won't work because I don't have that L, and D won't work because I don't have that L, but B works because I can see the L here. Does that make sense? And then if you were to go further, you'll see another L like that from the above view, which is what you'll see here. And then you'll see a square, which is what you have here. Okay, does that make sense? So option B is clearly the correct option because the 2D shapes align. There are the 3 L's and the square that you'll see from above. Option B. So it's really a process of elimination where you slowly work through the different 2D shapes that you see. For example, the L in the most outer perimeter, leaving us to eliminate A, then that L, which we don't have in C or D, so obviously that just leaves us with B. And we can confirm that B works. Okay, let's go on to the next question. So we have question 2. Train journey from Jasper to Salumba stops at 4 other stations along the way. So when I read this, immediately I'm thinking, okay, I should draw a diagram, right? Jasper to Salumba with 4 stops along the way. So the way this diagram would look is, let me do it really quickly for you guys. So J for Jasper, S for Salumba, and 4 stops along the way. So stop 1, stop 2, stop 3, stop 4. Okay? So I can call them 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now it says Jennifer boarded the train at Jasper and got off at the second last station. So Jennifer got off at the second last station. So Jennifer got off at this station. Right? Okay. And then it says Cavally station is between Wadi and Gadapul. Now, we don't know where Wadi and Gadapul is, but where can Wadi and Gadapul be? Like, where are the possible locations? Well, if you think logically, we have Jasper and Salumba there. So if Cavally is between Wadi and Gadapul, then Wadi could be here, or Wadi could be here, right? Because then it could be Wadi, Cavally, Gadapul, or Wadi, Cavally, Gadapul. And then Gadapul could either be here or here. Now this is all tentative, we don't have enough information right now. And then as for Cavally could either be here or here. So again, not enough information, that's why we put a question mark. But it says the train stops at Wadi before Anja. Okay, stops at Wadi before Anja. So we can't have Wadi here, because if Wadi was here, then that means Cavally has to be here, Gadi has to be here, but there's no space for Anja. So that means Wadi can't be there, okay? And it says the train stops at Anja before Gadapul. So Gadapul can't be here, because if Gadapul was here, then it would be WKG, and there would be no room for Anja to stop. So that means Gadapul has to be here. Okay? So basically, Anja is either here or here. So right now we don't have enough information, but we know for sure that Wadi is station 1, Gadapul is station 4, and station 2, 3 is either Anja or Cavally. We don't have enough information right now, but that's fine because the question is simply which station did Jennifer get off at? Well, Jennifer got off at station 4, which is gettable. Option D. Okay, moving on to question 3. Taller adults tend to have larger feet. Now the key word here is, or key words is tend to, which means usually but not always. Okay, that's really important to understand. Okay, so just because you're taller doesn't guarantee that you have larger feet. So this is not even a conditional statement. This is simply an observation pointing out a relationship, that taller adults tend to have larger feet. Okay, so we have a bunch of statements and we have to analyze whose reasoning is correct, right? The classic dialogue question that you might see. So Monroe says, your dad wears size 9 shoes and he's not as tall as my dad, so my dad's shoe size must be at least a size 10. So Monroe is making the assumption that if you're taller, you definitely have larger feet. But again, you have to remember, focus on the key words, which is tend to. So Monroe is wrong because Monroe used the phrase must be, assuming 100%. There's a difference between usually and something that is done with certainty. Must be signifies certainty, right? They're not the same, so Monroe is wrong. It's possible that Monroe's dad happens to be taller than Kevin's dad, but might have smaller feet, okay? So just because someone is taller does not guarantee that they will have larger feet. So Kevin says, no, that's not right. My dad's feet might be bigger than your dad's. That is correct. Because when we have tend to, remember the spectrum of probability, we have impossible, possible, right, and certainly. Tend to means usually. So it's also possible that the dad's feet still might be bigger than, Kevin's dad's feet might be bigger than Monroe's dad's feet, although he's not as tall. So who's correct? Kevin only. Okay, question 4. Access to the meeting room for a secret club is only possible by answering 2 security questions. The questions are based on the following sentence. Only members will be allowed in. Each day, everyone is given a number, which is the starting position. When anyone arrives at the door, they're given 2 numbers and have to say the letters that appear in these numbers. Okay, so there's 2 numbers. There's actually 3 numbers that you get. The starting position, okay, so the first number, which is the starting position, and then the next 2 numbers, which is the letters that appear in those positions if counting starts at that day's starting position. Right, so first number is the starting position, and the other 2 numbers are the letter positions from that counting start. Today, the first person was given the numbers 4 and 8. So these are the second 2 numbers, right? And responded with the letters E and O. So the positions 4th position and 8th position correlate with E and O. So we want to find the starting position, okay? We want to find the starting position. So if we know that 4th and 8th positions give us E and O, based on this sentence, right, which is only members will be allowed in, what is the starting number? So where do we have E and where do we have O? Okay, so let's scour the sentence for the letters E and the letters O. So we have E here. So if that's position 4, position 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 would be R. So that won't make sense because we need 8th position to be O, right? We need 4th position to be E, 8th position to be O. So it can't be that E. Let's keep looking. What if this is the 4th position? So that's 4, that's 5, 6, 7, 8. That also won't work. So let's keep going. What if this one is E? E, so that's 4. Then that's 5. And that's 6, 7, 8. Bingo, that works, right? So we have E at the 4th position, O at the 8th position. So what's the starting position? The starting position, we just have to work backwards. So that's 3, 2, 1. Starting position is this L, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we have a second person who's given the numbers 3 and 10. So the person's given the numbers 3 and 10. So we know that the starting position is this L, which I'll highlight here. The first L. Sorry, I botched it. This L. So that's the starting position. So what letters should be given at the response? So that's position 1, position 2, position 3, which will be the B, and then position 10, well, that's position 8, that's position 9, that's position 10. Okay, does that make sense, guys? So let me just highlight for you guys. This is position 3 and this is position 10, right? From the starting position. So the answer is going to be option C, B and E. Alright, moving on to question 5. So we have this question. A bird sanctuary has 4 parrots, Cliff, Echo, Muse and Sky. Staff at the sanctuary are keeping track of the treats that the parrots like to eat. They have found if a parrot eats apples, it also eats carrots. If a parrot eats carrots, it also eats melons. No parrot that eats carrots also eats peas. So my approach to this question is to set up a Venn diagram. Okay, so we have several circles that we have to consider in the Venn diagram. Parrots that eat apples, and then those that eat carrots. Oops. Apples, carrots, melons, and peas. So let's set up the diagram. So first rule, if a parrot eats apples, then it also eats carrots. So apples goes here, carrots goes here. If a parrot eats carrots, it also eats melons. So then you can draw another circle, right? So if a parrot eats carrots, it also eats melons. So all those that eat carrots will eat melons. No parrot that eats carrots also eats peas. So there's no overlap between carrots and peas. So I'm going to draw another circle. This will be peas. Now, I don't know if there's any overlap between peas and melons. So maybe there's parrots that eat peas and also melons. We don't know if that overlap exists, so that's why there's a question mark in this intersection between peas and melons. But we know that there's no overlap between parrots that eat peas and parrots that eat carrots. So I draw a line here, and the line is simply an indicator that there is no overlap whatsoever between parrots that eat peas and parrots that eat carrots. Okay? Right, so that's our Venn diagram. Based on the above information, which of the following must be true? So first of all, we have if Cliff eats peas, he also eats apples. Not necessarily. Actually, that's impossible because if Cliff eats peas, right, if Cliff eats peas, then he can't eat apples. There's no overlap. So A is wrong. If Echo does not eat peas, he does not eat carrots. So if he does not eat peas, he could still eat carrots. That's wrong because Echo could be here. What if Echo, right? What if Echo does not eat peas, but he does indeed eat carrots? So B is wrong. C, if Muse eats peas, she does not eat apples. So if Muse eats peas, Muse is here, right, in that category of peas. And basically no parrot that eat carrots can eat peas, and also all parrots who eat apples eat carrots. So basically, if Muse eats peas, she cannot eat apples. That is correct, right? Because peas can't intersect with carrots, and all parrots that eat apples eat carrots. Okay, so option C is our answer. Okay, question 6. Which of the following statements, if true, most strengthens the principal's argument? Okay, so what are we looking for? A way to strengthen the principal's argument the most. So whenever you have a strengthening, weakening argument question, the first step is to obviously work out, are you trying to strengthen, are you trying to weaken? Then you just have to understand how to break down the argument, which is simply premise, conclusions, right? Premises, conclusion. So find the main conclusion. The main conclusion is pretty easy to spot. It's literally that PE classes should include non-competitive sports and should not just focus on competitive sports like football and tennis. Okay? So PE classes should include non-competitive sports. That's the main conclusion, right? And what are the supporting premises? Well, one of the key supporting premises is that many students do not enjoy playing against their friends and classmates, as it often leads to unhealthy rivalries. So one of the reasons is that it's just a lack of enjoyment. Okay, so how do we strengthen the principal's argument that we should also integrate non-competitive sports such as bushwalking and dancing, and some other ones I can think of include maybe hiking or yoga into the PE curriculum? So let's go through the options. Option A, playing a competitive sport is a great way to learn the importance of teamwork this is not strengthening, because remember, we're trying to advocate for why non-competitive sports, so sports that don't involve competition, okay, should be included, okay? B, non-competitive sports are just as effective as competitive sports at improving fitness. Perfect, right? This does strengthen the argument. Now, we should always read all the options because we're trying to find the one that most strengthens. So sometimes there's options that might strengthen more than the other, even though there's several that strengthen. That's the possibility. So make sure you read every single option, okay? Now, option B certainly strengthens the principal's main argument, that kids should certainly have the opportunity to also participate in non-competitive sports, right? We shouldn't just force them into these competitions that can do more harm than good, such as generating unhealthy rivalries. And B points out that it's just as effective at improving fitness, which is pretty much the ultimate goal of sports. So why put kids under the unwarranted pressure or the undue harm of unhealthy rivalries, right? So B is very good at strengthening the argument. If we were to go through C and D, C is not relevant. C is just saying PE classes are compulsory, okay? But it doesn't really differentiate between why we should also include non-competitive sports, right? It doesn't differentiate between competitive versus non-competitive sports and why non-competitive sports may be favorable. So C is doing nothing to strengthen the argument. D, students like to have a range of different sports that they can choose to play. Again, range is really vague. You might think range is saying, oh yeah, competitive and non-competitive, but not really. Range is really vague. What does range mean? Does it mean a range of competitive sports? It's still not specifically advocating for the necessity of including non-competitive sports, right? For example, the Olympic Games have a range of sports, but they're all competitive. Swimming and basketball and all that jazz, those are all competitive sports. You can have a range of competitive sports. We want to talk about why non-competitive sports should be included. So that's why B is the best answer, because it is the most specific in supporting the principal's main conclusion. So always identify the main conclusion. It makes everything a whole lot easier. And also underline any keywords. In this instance, it would be non-competitive sports. Okay, question 7. So this one is actually pretty easy. I know it looks very intimidating because there's so much data going on, but if you just pause and think about what's going on, it's actually not that hard. So let's read this together. A street has a line of 5 houses next to each other on one side of the road. The 5 houses all have front doors that are painted a different color. A student looks at the houses from the opposite side. The student labels them according to the color of the front door and records which houses are to the left and which houses are to the right. So doesn't matter which row you choose, but if we just focus on perhaps the top row, houses to the left. So if we look at blue, there are 0 houses to the left of blue. So what does that mean? That means that the blue house is on the very left, okay? That means the blue house is on the very left. So if you actually want to set up a diagram, let's do it quickly. There's 5 houses, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? So for the blue house, there's 0 houses to the left of the blue house. That means blue has to be on the very left. The red house only has the blue house to its left, so that means the red house is here. Then we have the yellow house, which has the blue and the red house to its left. That yellow goes here, and then you guys get the gist. Green house has blue, red, yellow to its left, so green is here, and pink has these houses. You only need 1 row, right? But you can just verify that your order is correct by checking with the second row, but that's not really necessary if you're short on time. We have blue house, which has the green, pink, red, yellow house to its right, yes. Green house, which has the pink house to its right, red, which has the... Okay, you guys get the gist, right? Just set up a diagram, and then you can easily answer this question. Which 2 houses are next to the yellow house? Well, it's just the red house and the green house. Done. Option D.